The world is teeth and terror. The small hominid runs, his bare feet slapping against the sun-baked earth of the dry riverbed. He is a child of the Australopithecus line, built for scavenging and foraging, not for this panicked, desperate flight. Behind him, the sounds are crisp and deadly, the rhythmic scratch of sickle claws on stone, the high-pitched, tricking calls of the pack. Utahraptors. They are relentless, intelligent hunters, moving with a fluid viciousness that turns the fern-choked landscape into an arena. His small lungs burn, each gasp a ragged sob. He lost the clan at the watering hole 2 suns ago, drawn away by a colourful beetle, and in this prehistoric world, being alone is a death sentence. The pack is toying with him now, flanking him, cutting off any escape back toward the familiar savanna. They are driving him into the deep jungle, into territory where bigger dinosaurs lurk, where the very air feels heavy with ancient menace. He bursts through a curtain of giant leaves and freezes. The soundscape changes. The raptor's calls are suddenly swallowed by a deeper noise, a vibration that travels not through the air but up through the soles of his feet, a low, tectonic rumble. Before him is not a jungle, but a moving forest of grey, wrinkled flesh. A herd of Diplodocus moves slowly through the clearing, their colossal legs like the pillars of a temple, their long necks swaying like impossible serpents among the treetops. They are mountains made of life, their passage shaking the very ground. Fear wars with all. To be crushed underfoot is as certain a death as being torn apart by the raptors, who have now paused at the edge of the clearing, their yellow eyes glowing with predatory calculation. He is trapped between the swift and the colossal. He makes a choice born not of courage, but of pure, animal desperation. He darts forward, slipping beneath the vast, high arch of a Diplodocus' underbelly. The air beneath the giant is warm and smells of dust and vegetation. He presses himself against a tree trunk leg as the raptors, emboldened by their cornered prey, surge forward. The pack leader, a scarred male with a single black feather crest, leaps, aiming for the child's small frame. But the giant Diplodocus, a great matriarch whose skin is a map of ancient scars, finally seems to notice the frantic commotion at her feet. Her massive head, perched at the end of its impossible neck, pivots, an eye the size of a melon swivels down, blinking slowly as it registers the tiny, furred creature and the snarling predators. There is no roar, no earth-shattering stomp of aggression. The matriarch does something far more profound. She shifts her immense weight, and her tail 100-foot bullwheel of bone and sinew sweeps low across the ground. It doesn't strike, but the displacement of air alone is a physical blow. It kicks up a blinding cloud of dust, pebbles, and debris that smashes into the charging raptors, sending them tumbling back with shrieks of frustrated rage. The matriarch lets out a low, resonant call, a sound that vibrates in the child's very bones. It is not a threat, it is a statement of presence, an undeniable declaration of space. The raptors regroup, hissing, but they will not challenge the moving wall of flesh. For the first time in 2 days, the child breathes. He looks up at the towering column of the leg beside him, then to the sky, framed by a spine of massive vertebrae disappearing into the canopy. His desperate bid for survival has led him to the most unlikely sanctuary, a fortress of giants, a new and terrifying community whose rules he must now learn if he is to see another sunrise. Days bleed into weeks. The child, who has no name beyond the grunts of his lost clan, learns the rhythm of giants. It is a slow, ponderous cadence, a life measured in the sun's long arc and the endless quest for vegetation. He sleeps curled in the hollow of a great root, warmed by the radiating heat from the matriarch's leg. At proximity she now tolerates with a strange, passive acceptance. He eats what the titans discard, fruits and high canopy leaves knocked to the ground by their passage, grubs and earth by their colossal feet. He is no longer prey, but a ghost, a tiny mammal living in the shadow of mountains of flesh. The ever-present Utahraptors still shadow the herd, a persistent, malevolent fringe, but they keep their distance, wary of the sweeping tails and the sheer, crushing mass of the adults. This fragile peace, however, is a temporary state in a world built on predation. The child's survival depends on his ability to offer something more than just his own small, insignificant presence. His hominid history is one of adaptation. And here, in this alien context, his brain begins to forge new pathways. While the Diplodocus possess immense power, their senses are scaled to their world. Their eyes, set on the sides of their massive skulls, are for panoramic awareness, not for focused scrutiny. The child's advantage is his binocular vision, a gift from his tree-dwelling human ancestors. He sees the world in 3 dimensions, with a clarity of depth the giants lack. Climbing a termite mound, he becomes a watchtower. He sees not just the herd, but the world around the herd. He notices how the raptor pack no longer follows, but now moves parallel, using the dense undergrowth of ferns and cycad palms for cover. They are learning, adapting. They are not just following, they are planning. This is the essence of his growing survival skills, not just reacting to danger, but anticipating it. He needs a voice, a way to bridge the impossible gulf in scale. His own frantic squeaks are lost beneath the sound of a single giant footstep. One afternoon, while cracking a nut with a river stone, he strikes another by accident. The resulting clack is sharp, unnatural, a piercing sound that cuts through the jungle's low hum. The matriarch's head, grazing 100 feet away, pauses and turns slightly. He does it again. Clack, clack. The sound is an anomaly, a signal of something other. He has found his voice. He is no longer just a refugee. He is a sentinel. He spends his days watching, his stones ready. He learns the subtle signs of a hunt, a flicker of striped feather pelt in the deep green, a silence where there should be insect noise. He is becoming an external nervous system for the herd. The attack comes at dusk, when the light is failing and the long shadows can hide a legion of sins. The raptors have grown bold and clever. They ignore the adults, focusing their lethal attention on a half-grown juvenile separated by a few dozen yards. They use a ravine to mouse their final approach, pouring out from the concealed depression in a coordinated, silent rush. But the child is perched high on the branch of a fallen ironwood tree. He saw their flanking maneuver minutes ago. As the first raptor breaks cover, he begins to hammer his stones together, a frantic, desperate tattoo of sound that shrieks wrongness. The juvenile hears it and startles, turning just in time. The matriarch hears it and lets out a deep, booming call that is pure alarm. The herd responds instantly. It is not a panicked fright, but a measured, tactical shift. The adults close ranks, forming a living fortress of grey flesh around the young. Tails, like colossal whips, begin to slice through the air with a sound like thunder. The raptors' charge falters against this impenetrable, moving wall. They scatter, screeching in frustration. Their perfectly laid trap sprung by the sharp-eyed ghost and his 2 simple stones. For now, intelligence has held the line. The raptors learn from their failures. They are creatures of lethal patience, and their next strategy is one of sublime, brutal simplicity chaos. They no longer attack the herd directly. Instead, they become agents of terror, using the environment as their primary weapon. They appear at the edges of the great beast's vision, a flash of teeth and feather, only to vanish again. They orchestrate rockfalls from high ledges, sending pebbles clattering down not to injure, but to unnerve. They are a constant, low-level hum of anxiety, fraying the nerves of the titan herd until the slightest provocation will trigger a panic. The child sees this unfolding war of attrition, a battle of psychology, but his clacking stones are now just another part of the soundscape. He needs a stronger warning, and he has none. The breaking point arrives on a blisteringly hot afternoon, from 3 sides simultaneously. The Utahraptors burst from the tree line, not charging, but running parallel to the herd, their high-pitched shrieks creating a wall of disorienting sound. They are not hunting, they are herding. The Diplodocus herd explodes into a stampede. The ground trembles as 1,000 tons of flesh and bone begins a panicked, mindless run. The child, clinging to a vine, is nearly shaken from his perch. This is not a controlled defense. It is a tidal wave of terror. And the raptors are the merciless tide masters, steering the wave towards a deep, narrow gorge, a natural trap where the giants will be funneled, crippled, and brought down. The matriarch is swept along with them, her low rumbles of alarm lost in the thunder of 100 colossal feet. The raptors nip at her heels, their teeth glancing harmlessly off the tough, pebbled osteoderms of her hide, but serving their purpose, keeping her moving, keeping her terrified, driving her toward the precipice. The child sees the trap. He sees his protector, the mountain that became his shield, being driven to her death. In this moment of absolute despair, a memory surfaces. A storm, 3 nights past, a flash of light that split the sky, and a great ironwood tree that exploded into flame. The next morning, a single branch, thick as his waist, still glowed with a core of sullen red heat. It was an object of fear and wonder. No, it is his only hope. He scrambles down, his mind screaming at the folly, and runs towards the smouldering log. The heat is a living thing, a monster that bites at his skin. He finds a smaller, manageable piece, one end blackened and smoking. He grips the cool end, his hand trembling, and turns to face the stampede. He runs, a tiny, insignificant creature carrying a stick of tamed lightning, angling to intercept the matriarch. He screams, a sound of pure, desperate will, and bursts from the trees directly in her path. The matriarch sees him, her massive eyes, wide with panic, register the small, familiar shape, but it is the fire she reacts to, the glowing orange tip. The plume of grey smoke, it is an utterly alien presence in her world. It is the sun, fallen to earth. It is pain. It is wrong. She rears back, a movement so vast it momentarily blocks out the sky. Her forward momentum broken by a primal fear that eclipses her panic. A sudden halt throws the charging herd into disarray. The giants behind her swerve, their own terror of the strange, burning thing overriding the raptor's influence. The stampede breaks, its unified direction shattered into confused, individual fear. The raptors, their perfect stratagem undone by a force they cannot comprehend, skid to a halt. Hissing at the child on his burning stick, he stands his ground, a fragile David before a dozen Goliaths, and waves the smouldering branch. The pack, for the first time, retreats not from a titan, but from a 2-legged ape with a spark of the future in his hand. The smoke from the branch curls into the humid air, a thin grey line drawn between 2 epics. The child does not know it, but in his desperate act of altruism, he has done more than save a single life. He has demonstrated the core thesis of hominid history, that the trajectory of evolution is bent not by the strongest jaw or the sharpest claw, but by the mind's ability to grasp a new and terrifying tool. This is the dawn of symbiosis, the first whisper of domestication, an alliance forged between the planet's largest body and its most audacious brain. This single, terrified Australopithecus child, standing under the shadow of his giant protector, has become the first creature on this ancient earth to wield a power greater than his own flesh. His small, brave act is an echo carried forward through millennia, a testament to the moment our human ancestors stopped simply surviving the world and began, with fire and courage, to reshape it. How many times was this desperate gamble made in the deep past, this leap of faith against impossible odds, before the spark finally caught and illuminated the long path to our own time? For in the deep silence between a titan's footstep and a hominid's defying cry, we find the very bedrock of our own improbable story. But in the north, the mountains are growing colder, and a different kind of hunter is learning that fur is the warmest shield against the coming ice.